Let me show you how it's done.
Well, welcome. You are listening to the Drop podcast on business, tech, and influence. I am one half of the Drop, Tam Danier, head of strategy. I lead insights and product. I focus on tech, in particular, solutions that solve real-world problems. And I'm here with...
My name is B. Pagels Minor. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I have been a product manager for over a decade at some of the world's most well-respected companies like Sprout Social, Apple, and Netflix. I've led teams that built important parts of the App Store, launched games at Netflix, built listening at Sprout Social. All in all, my DNA is fully being a product manager.
So let's talk about this, right? Let's get into this topic about like what's trending. And we both come from tech, and entertainment and tech are almost intertwined in so many ways. Entertainment artists are now pouring their capital into tech, right? And investments. It's Nas and Jay-Z. We've got entertainment artists selling out their catalog to private equity firms. What do you make of all that?
This is the interesting thing about technology. So people like talk about like, oh, it's so terrible. It's connected us. And now we have social media, and social media is killing our brains. But it also is this really amazing way to create equity, right? Because without technology, like a musician does not need a record label now. And the only reason that is because you have technology that allows them to put their music out anywhere in the world and get paid for it, right? Mm-hmm. Now, to the point of like, so there's two things there. So one, I love that artists have the ability to capitalize. Yeah. But I remember that we were talking about this like Justin Timberlake deal, and I was like so scandalized over this deal because I was like, I don't understand how you paid $100 million.
For context, the details of this deal are.
So the details of the deal is Justin Timberlake sold his entire catalog, not a part of his catalog, his entire catalog for $100 million to this, independent, like some,
Right.
Yeah, so one of the Blackstone's companies in their portfolio. I can't remember. It's like Higgs. It's the name of the actual company and stuff.
They partnered with another music company, Hypnosis. Let me get the details here or something. Hypnosis song. It created a new fund specifically to purchase catalogs, music catalogs.
And from what I understand, what's interesting about this deal is like, one, it's only his past catalog. I don't believe it includes any unwritten music,
right,
or anything like that, which is a little bit different, right? Because like if you look at like Lindsey Buckingham, for instance, he sold his entire Fleetwood Mac catalog, and he also sold any unreleased music. And that was for a few $100 million. So again, like, it kind of makes sense to me because Fleetwood Mac is literally like part of the blueprint of music. Like when I think about, music that has been sampled many times, that has been in so many movies, so many TV shows, I think Fleetwood Mac, and I go, okay, you're going to get your money back on this deal. Like there's no question in my mind. This makes sense. Right. But for the Justin Timberlake deal, I was like, first of all, Justin Timberlake doesn't really write or produce all of his own music. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that went through my mind was, hey, like, how much does he actually get every time one of these songs is streamed, right? Like, is it like, does he get like 1/4? Does he get 1/8? Does he get 1/10? Does he get 1/12? I don't know. But I was just like, and so I did a Google search, and I was like, okay, well, let me look at Sexy back in some of these other songs. And not only is it written by like 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 people, it also samples other people.
Right.
So I was like, okay, so let me take this. It's probably not even 1/8, right? Because I don't know how samples work, but I was like trying to understand a little bit of this, right? But basically, the person who that he originally sampled might actually get a larger percentage when his song is played than he actually gets when the song is played. Right. So then I was trying to extrapolate. I was like, okay, so how do you actually get $100 million back in value for Justin Timberlake's catalog? So then I was like, well, let me go figure out how much, like Drake made from Spotify since Spotify started. So Drake has made $114 million, right? And that's with like 70 billion streams, right? And Drake now releases albums that are like 30, 40, 50 songs. I swear, it seems like his albums get longer and longer. But part of the strategy is he gets paid for every one of those songs. So that's going to naturally increase the number of streams he's going to have, right? And so, and then every time he releases a new album, it increases the likelihood other people will go back and listen to his old streams. So it's like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
He's optimizing for total number of streams.
Exactly.
Right?
Justin Timberlake is not as prolific as Drake, right? And I also think that why would he? Like, you know, like, so for instance, he's done a lot of voice acting. He's also presumably trying to get into just general acting. And so that's his focus moving forward. So there's a less likelihood that he's going to create albums that are going to generate these streams, like the streams in the same manner that you're going to have from a Drake or a Taylor Swift or any of those people who music is their primary function. So that's the first thing. So I was just like, okay, I don't understand how you're going to get the streams. So it's like, okay, so now that I don't understand how you're going to get the streams, let's figure out other ways that you make money off of music. The other ways you make money off of music is you put them in movies, you put them in TV shows, they become part of marketing campaigns and things like that. And true Can't Stop the Feeling, I can totally see that. Like, Can't Stop the Feeling is one of those songs that I can see resurging every 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. Like, no question whatsoever. Like, I could see it happening. And you look at the rest of his song, like Sexy Back. Like, is Sexy Back gonna be one that's gonna just be the zeitgeist that's gonna come back every few years? I don't know. You know, I'm not saying that Justin Timberlake's catalog isn't worth a large sum of money. But I just can't understand. So again, if I'm an investor, if I'm Blackstone, and I saw this deal, I'd be like, how are we going to recoup our money on this deal? Like, how long is it going to take us? Because I could easily see it could take 20, 25, 30, 35 years to recoup their money on this deal. And I don't understand how that makes economic sense.
Because, well, I'll tell you and I'm going to take the position of Blackstone. This is steady. This is kind of like a bond yield, right? I think this purchase says that they are betting on the internet. If you're betting on the internet, you're betting on streaming, and streaming is going to grow. And streaming is not just the Spotify and Apple Music and those, but it's TikTok and it's social media and it's all of that. So if we believe in the creator economy, I think we say that we believe in streaming. If we believe in streaming, we believe in the internet. And I think that that's what this signifies. This and the other purchases in this space says, hey, Blackstone's portfolio, a lot of it is in the real estate. They buy Wyndham hotels, or they do things like this. And this is kind of like a long, steady yield play. Then $100 million is maybe not a bad deal, right? Because let's say the portfolio is now largely made up of this. And as by the way, they only own Justin Timberlake's interest in that catalog. So they don't own the master. Right. So they own his interest. And to your point, wow, you're saying a fraction of a dollar is what you're entitled to. And you value that fraction of a dollar at $100 million.
Yes. And the thing is, what's really interesting is, so then I was like trying to find someone comparable, someone who is also a modern artist, if that makes sense. It's like again, the Fleetwood Mac, the Bob Dylan, Tina Turner, all those people make sense to me because, like, one, their music is sampled often, so it's like very clear to me that there's like a steady revenue that's happening every single solitary day. Also, I probably re-listened to Fleetwood Mac's live album at least 3 or 4 times a year. Like, because Tusk that's my shit. Tusk is amazing. I love that. Like, that's my jam, and it gets me motivated. So like, I get why those deals are like that. So I looked at Bruno Mars deal. So Bruno Mars deal, they haven't said how much it's worth, right? And they only bought a fraction of his catalog, and then they paid for, and he retained a percentage. But it still seems very smart, right? Because he's like, they only, like, so he has like 232 songs, and they only got like a percentage of those songs, and then he keeps a percentage, a minority share of his music, and they get possible interest in his future music. That deal makes sense to me, right? Because one, Bruno Mars writes not only for himself, but for other people. I think he's prolific enough, and he writes across all genres. I would pay $100 million right now for Bruno Mars' catalog. It gives you access to his future. It gives you access to everything he writes for everybody else too, right? Because he is the writer and producer, he owns more of the songs to start off with. I kind of get you stuff. Do you really think Bruno Mars and Justin Timberlake are the same?
I think they will show up on the same playlist in some same playlists.
Justin Timberlake's from Memphis. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. I got a lot of love for the guy. I got a lot of love for Memphis. So I want him to make his money. I just don't understand how it's justifiable to spend $100 million. Bruno Mars, I think, gets you to $100 million in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how Justin Timberlake gets you to $100 million return in that same amount of time.
I think it makes sense for tech companies to buy into catalogs.
Well, what's funny about that is, like, so when I was at Apple, like, one of the things I found was very interesting. So Apple has, like, a bunch of different interests in it. They also have, like, you know, like, Billie Eilish wasn't a mistake. Like, it wasn't a chance encounter. Like, she was, like, they found her, like, some people who worked with Apple many years ago, and Apple's invested a lot of time and money to develop her. So you would almost say that Apple already figured out we need to be in the artist making business.
Right.
Because that's how we're going to generate business. And that's how they're going to generate that type of sticky experience for Apple Music. And it's brilliant, right? And actually, so this goes to this, like, pipeline. Right. So the leaky pipeline exists not only when it comes to talent in tech, and also as talent in artistry and all these other things, right? Because you need to create the pipeline to control as much of your product as possible. Right.
So would you say it's better? Let's look at the outlook of it. If by the way, I'm gonna give you like some stats on Dua Lipa, right? Talking about like the split and the value. So Levitation was the most streamed song in 2021, and it earned the writer something like $4 million. Do you know how many spins? Here's a little trivia. I really hate guessing games, by the way, but trivia on how many spins it took to get $4 million in streaming revenue.
Well, so like I said, I did a Google thing, and it told me that Drake has made $110 million off of 70 billion streams. So $4 million is the 25th of that. So that's like 2 billion streams.
Close, but half of that, 800 million.
800 million, okay.
And so the tricky thing about it is where the spins are being made. Different markets pay differently. So about 800 something million spins generated $4 million. There's about 8 rights holders to that song. By the way, song also got sued for sample, right? And then the plaintiff won in that case. And let's say because Dua Lipa is also the artist, and the artist gets a share, and then I'm going to assume that modern day artist owns a piece of her publishing and gets a writing credit as well. She's probably eking out a little bit more than 10%, maybe between 10 and 17% of a dollar. Something around $400,000, $600,000. Not a bad deal economically for a single song to generate that amount of money for an artist. By the way, also, she doesn't get any of that unless she's recouped by the record label. But still, you could conceivably say to someone as advice, go ahead and write a song every day.
Yes.
You'll write 365 in a year. If one of them pops, if 5 of them pops, it raises the value of your entire portfolio. And maybe one day you too could sell it for $100 million. Not a bad deal at all. However, I would, to your point, argue again, what is the likelihood of Levitation achieving that amount of spins again over what period of time to generate the next $4 million? It's not going to get 800 million spins this year.
Well, and also, if everyone learns about this plan, then that means that everyone is going to be releasing 365 songs a year.
Everybody's going to do the Drake. I think Drake figured it out, right? Like, Drake figured out that model. I'm going to write a song every day, and eventually my catalog, if 10% of this catalog is this is basically the venture capital thing, right? I'm going to pour all over the place. One of them is going to pop. It's going to raise the value of the entire catalog.
Well, and so this goes to this bigger idea. DJ Khaled is worth 10 times than what Justin Timberlake is worth then. Because DJ Khaled is he's the beat maker, he's the producer, he's a discoverer of talent. And you know he gets a percentage of every single thing that he creates.
Exactly. And his label as well. Right.
Exactly. So like, why would I go work? Actually, don't even work with Justin Timberlake. Go find out who produces Justin Timberlake's music and buy that catalog.
Mm-hmm. So
that should be the strategy. That would be my strategy. I wouldn't even talk to artists. I would be like, who produces all these artists? I want every single one of them, and I will pay a premium to also have access to all of their future content. That's
So
where
is
I would
this
go.
is that the drop? Is that the advice? Is that the drop?
Yes,
That
yes. Go find the producers and the writers. Find the producers and the writers,
right?
because that's who's going to make all the. Actually, who's the one who did all the stuff? Like, back in the '90s, that one woman who wrote all of the soundtracks and like
Warren?
everything. Yes,
Diane Warren?
I want her catalog.
Her catalog works a lot. That's
Because
right.
still, like every couple years, she still
Babyface?
drops one.
Is it right?
Babyface.
Babyface is another one, right?
That's who you want. Like, I don't.
Who
Again, my biggest issue.
Who should let's say on the other side, who should Babyface, who should Diane Warren sell to? Should she go to BMI, which is probably her publishing company, or Warner Brothers, or should she go to a tech company? Should she go to
tech company?
Go to an Apple, Amazon, let them buy it?
Think about this. Apple TV could create like a Diane Warren documentary. They could create a Diane Warren cartoon about how to make music, how to consistently.
They're calling this the flywheel effect. Yeah,
I'm just saying. I mean, actually, this is Disney. This is actually Disney, because Disney, the sketch that Disney made, he was like, create a cartoon, create a shirt, create, a cup, create Disneyland. And he was like, if you create the story, you can create an entire world around this story. And so it's actually Disney. We all just trying to be like Walt Disney. We just decided to do it 100 years later.
Right. So the takeaway is tech and music are merging, right? Equity firms are looking at this as steady yield, right? Their bet is on the internet, and the internet means streaming. So we believe that there is steady yield in an artist catalog. And so if you're an artist, write a song every day. If 10% of them pop, it raises the value of the entire catalog.
And write a song that will pop on TikTok.
You're right. Write for TikTok. Write for the TikTok crowd, and you too
will be a 100 millionaire.
Can get 100 millionaire. Right.
Yes.
The odds are
it won't happen. But if it does,
but $100 million, $100 million. Right.
Hey, and actually, you don't even have to give Tam and I a cut. Just donate to charity. Just do a couple donations. That'll be our cut.
Give me a cut. If this is what sparked the idea, absolutely 100%.
I know. This is why you're the better business person than I am.
Who gave you that drop? What? Yeah, I like this deal. Who do you think is going to be next to sell their catalog?
Let's see. Sia would be a good example. Sia's written a lot. Sia,
okay.
Actually, Lady Gaga's catalog also, because Lady Gaga looks like she's about to be the next Diane Warren. It's going to be writing songs for movies for the rest of our lives, and so that means she's going to be nominated for an Oscar like every 2 days. So so she's another great example. Yeah, but both of them are both like very prolific writers. Taylor Swift also, like, I don't think Taylor Swift will sell it because Taylor Swift is a boss. Like, I have a feeling that Taylor Swift is actually going to create her own company and figure out how, like, her own publishing company and, like, do it herself.
She already does. Also, you know what's going on with her right now? Scooter Braun and that beef, and her old catalog was owned by the record label, so they owned it and they sold it. And here was her hack. Quite brilliant. I must say, either she is a mastermind or she does have some very smart people on her team. But her hack around is to re-record those first songs to create a new recording and leverage those and release those. And so basically, kind of like the Dave Chappelle move, don't watch the Chappelle show from Comedy Central because they own it. Instead, watch it. Like, basically, she's doing that. I'm going to re-release these songs. They're re-recorded. Listen to this version, not that version, so she can cannibalize the sale. And I
might not do it that way. But since you have millions of dollars, this is what I suggest.
Yeah. All right. So if you would say to you're gonna say to Sia, you should probably go try to see what you can get on the market for your catalog. Sia's the next person. Okay.
Sia can make that money.
Her out. The Dream owned the early 2000s and all of that.
So yes, possibly. Actually, what's the dude who does the T-Pain? T-Pain also owned the 2000s.
I think this is going to go into another topic of what is the long-term value of certain genres. Here's a little fact. During the pandemic, pop music did not stream as much. People were nostalgic. And so the value of pop music went down. How are you ever going to know what song is going to be valuable at what time, right? What's the time value of hip hop versus pop versus country versus soul?
I feel like this is totally doable. I'm sure that there's a data scientist and a data engineer who can go through and look at all, 60, 70, 80 years of the Billboard charts, and then provide us some kind of data that shows us scale wise. I mean, obviously I think hip hop is what's a version of hip hop. Like, obviously this is not Tupac's hip hop. In fact, Tupac may be very pissed about this hip hop, but I think a version of hip hop is probably going to be in the zeitgeist for a long time, because it used to be underground. Now it's very much in the mainstream, and hip hop is essentially pop now. And so I think this is
a Joe Budden conversation at this point. This is so debatable. Like, the very first rap song is not being heard. We consider Biggie to be old school hip hop now.
Yes.
And yes, you could say he's very relevant, but I don't know. Is T-Pain more relevant than Young Thug at this point?
I mean, Young Thug looks better in a dress.
How do you say who's gonna win that race? Like, if you had to buy both catalogs right now.
But I think Young Thug appeals to Gen Z, and they are the future.
Fair point. But, Tina Turner, that's another discussion. I want to hear some opinions on that. If you have $50 million right now and you had to buy two catalogs, T-Pain's versus Young Thug's.
Well, T-Pain's going to be more prolific.
I like T-Pain's opinion.
I mean, T-Pain thinks he's the shit. Remember, he's also the one who just posted that, you can't don't even apply to his place if you're not going to do a cover letter and have a professional portfolio. So he's also an old man, apparently. So,
apply to his what? What exactly is he asking?
They were applying for some kind of job. The internet said, the Black.
Are you talking about his restaurant? I don't think there's anybody.
Oh, no. This is his recording studio and stuff. I was just all right, T-Pain. T-Pain said you need to be professional.
Send resumes with portfolio links.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening to the Drops Podcast. We love having you. We love your feedback. Please do connect with us across social media. We are the Drops Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. And we also have a great email, thedropspodcast@gmail.com. You can send in any questions that you have, and we definitely would love to answer them on the podcast. Feel free to ask just about anything, because we have experienced a ton of different things. Again, thank you so much for listening to the Drops Podcast.